Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas expressed by the guest, myself, or commenters may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It is the state of giving or receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to more complex form. So what is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to more complex human being living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is simulcast live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific from the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page, Matrix Minds Facebook page, and the ET Whisper YouTube channel. It is also redistributed from the Forbidden Knowledge News Network and Conscious Awakening Network. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier. Hello, all of you guys. It has been a while. It's been a little over a month since I've actually done a show. I'm so happy to be back with all of you guys, and we have an amazing group of guests to join us back for our episode 201. Amazing time it's been, and a crazy time it's been. And you'll get a little idea of why I've been off for a month once I read you the announcements. And before we get to our guest, Jasmine and Martika, we've got the thing that some of you guys love so much and others of you dislike very horribly, and that's our announcements. First of all, I am going to share, there are no show announcements yet for the Enlightenment Evolution Hour for the network. There are no new announcements, besides the fact that you can always go and watch Out There with Valiant himself. That's an Instagram live every Tuesday and Wednesday. You can find it at Out There Talk with Valiant himself, who's an amazing dude. And no other announcements for the network. Now, the ET Whisper announcements are the ones that are going to be a little bit long. June 20th through 24th of this year, I will be in Mount Shasta for the Lumerian Life Expo, who's being put together by the amazing team of Ruben Langdon, Heather Taylor, her partner Ben, an amazing group of people who are just absolutely awesome. And I am going to be there, and so is a lot of people that you guys know, friends of the show, people in our community. Tyler Ellison, Chandler, who we've had here, who's an amazing dude. Jamie Price, who's also been a guest here. Wendy Kennedy, who's also been a guest here. And a lot of really great people who you may or may not have had contact with are going to be there. We're doing workshops. We're doing live channel. We're doing all sorts of great stuff. I will have more announcements up on my website very soon for that. And again, that's June 20th through 24th in the Mount Shasta, California area. So keep an eye on the website for that. And then what we have is going to be the 14th to the 16th of July, the very next month. I will be doing the Stargate Crusaders retreat. That's going to be a 3-day retreat, and it's going to be out in Connecticut, right on the ocean, CE5s. Accommodations are part of the pricing. You stay in this beautiful mansion that's right there in the middle of nature on the beach. It's going to be an amazing time. And the guy who put that together, Glenn Mate, has been on the show before and also is an amazing dude. So that you'll be able to find on the website soon also. But until then, you can go to stargatecrusader.com, all one word, and check out the tickets for that. It's going to be a very amazing experience with a bunch of great people, including Tyler Ellison and including actually, you know what? Debbie Solaris, who was there with me in Sedona and last weekend. And as you guys know, I came back from Sedona, and there'll be videos up very soon for that, and all sorts of other great stuff. And then on August 12th, actually, sorry, that's August 8th through 12th, I will be in a place in New York that I can't pronounce. It's a park that's out in the middle of upstate New York. And I will be with a Hulaco Human Colony Starseed Gathering. It's going to be a multiple day event, also lodging included. Also, you don't have to pay for lodging if you live in the area. Also, a lot of great things. It's going to be out on a huge lake. It's going to be out in the nature. It's going to be an amazing time. And I'm going to be there from the 8th of August to the 12th. Also, there is a very high probability just getting through the initial talks yesterday with 2 different people. The very end of August, beginning of March, I might be in Egypt, hanging out in Egypt for several days for a multiple speaker retreat. And also myself and Tyler might be able to be in Japan this year in Tokyo and do an event out there. So a lot of things are happening at the ET Whisper, a lot of transformative energies and a lot of other things, but I don't want to go too far into this. I really want to connect with our guest tonight. We've got Jasmine, who I've had the opportunity to meet, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and her dear friend and partner here, Martika, who I'm getting to learn to know right now, who's an amazing person so far, and everything I've heard about Martika has been amazing. After Jasmine shared a QHHT session in a Telegram chat, Martika immediately remembered the connection of knowing that she had worked with Jasmine a long time ago. And since then, they've witnessed a collection of particles and a reformation of light through intentional collaborative meetings at equinoxes, solstices, and intuited timing. Even through dreams, they connect, weaving energy and matter. The spectrum of light contains all of the observable universe and beyond. They work together in the Hemispheric Gateway Gridwork, and they are using their Photonic Light and Element Lead practices, which are immediate and ongoing responses from the quantum field. These two have a lot of energy that they are sharing together, creating together, and they want to work with that greater collective energy and the field of energy that's connected to the earth. It's very amazing work, very interesting, and I definitely want to get to understand and know more about that as we go. But instead of just telling you about both of these people, we're going to bring them in. Welcome, Martika. Welcome, Jasmine. Hello, hello, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Rob. Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited. Hello, everybody in the chat.
Yes, hello.
Well, I'm so glad to have you guys here. I got to meet Jasmine in Sedona a couple times now, an amazing person, and I've already gotten to know you a little bit. So why don't we start off with you, Jasmine? The first question I ask to everybody is the same question. To me, yes, the story is important. To me, yes, your spiritual journey is important. Yes, the work that you're doing also is important, but I want to understand where you were before you started that journey. I want to understand like the influences in your early childhood, in your very, very early life, maybe your young teen years or early adulthood, the things that helped form you to be the person, to be the Jasmine that was able to go down this path, that was open to having these types of experiences. So what were those kind of early life influences on you?
Well, as a little girl, I was always astral projecting and able to connect with the other side. And even me and my middle sister often connected through dreams and these experiences where we would have shared dreams and really amazing experiences together. And so from a very early age, I was really tuned in and could tap in. And so I had this curiosity from ever since I can remember. And going forward, it just followed me through my life at very significant points. And even when I was 13 years old, my aunt had given me a library's worth of books on metaphysics. And that actually introduced me to meditation for the first time. And I took to it so easily, and that allowed me to really be able to deeply connect and experience these other realms in ways that were profound. And that just propelled me forward on this spiritual journey even further, and really helped me to develop my gifts and to understand these realms that many seem not to, or that were hidden from us. And I just followed that for
Oh,
a
that's
long time.
amazing. I love that. And it's very beautiful too, because I have had the amount of guests who always had the intuition, who always had their psych abilities, who always had that connection. And to me, that's amazing because although early in my own experience, I had some things, most of it was just dialed so far down and kind of a fight to claw into that. It feels so different. But Kalina, is the same way. She was kind of born with that natural ability, and we'll definitely get into the reasons why that might be and things of that down the road. But before we do that, Martika, I want to offer you the same question. I want to kind of find out what in your early life influenced you to be open to be the person who is having the experiences you are today, who's doing the work that you are today, who's connecting with each other like you are this day. What were those early built-in types of influences in your life?
Rob, thank you so much for that question. It's such a meaningful question, and I love that you preface the calls with it. It's really beautiful. So, for me, it was definitely the dreaming space, lucid dreaming, and constantly trying to bring back these kind of etheric qualities that I couldn't even conceive of in the physical space, trying to bring those back through dreams. Um, that was where I started to see like a participation could be had in this experience. And that was happening from probably before about 8 years old. Um, but in toddler years, before about 5 years old, I was seeing my grandfather a lot. I have one memory that I can still see, and other memories that I've been told about from my mother that, you know, th- things that I was vocalizing and seeing made it quite apparent to her that I was seeing her father, my grandfather. And I would say that it's probably both my mother and father, but my mother really helped paint the canvas of like possibility. Um, she allowed me creative thinking and imagination and allowed space for more than what we were seeing. And she was open with me from a really young age about experiences that she had, stories from my grandfather, um, who is an Aboriginal man, and had a lot of stories that relate to, dreaming stories and things like that, and incredible phenomenon that actually happened out on our country, um, for my group, the Pita Pita people, which actually relates to lights. It's called the Min Min lights. It's a known phenomenon around the world. But I've also quite privileged with my geographical upbringing, where I was raised as a place called the Sunshine Coast, um, cared for by the Jinnabara and the Gubbi Gubbi people for thousands of years before settlement. And this place is really, really special. So it's literally on the ocean, but it's just this kind of combination of beautiful ecosystems. We have it's a volcanic area. We have a mountain range there called the Great Dividing Range that sort of stretches up the east coast of the country. And the Glasshouse Mountains are a beautiful place there that I was sort of raised in with the dreaming stories there from them. So this backdrop of an incredible ecosystem that was quite pristine um, really lent itself to reflection from a young age. So I was always at the beach with my father, always fishing, things like that. So I was really out in this environment a lot. And like the sheer beauty of it, even as a child, you can't really help but question what is it. And there was a lot of time. I was given a lot of freedom to walk on the rocks and the beach and actually ponder things from a young age. And I think, I have an undercurrent of kind of melancholy running through me, but that created space for thought and for imagination. So geographic and relationships really supported me to to get to where I am now. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does, and thank you for sharing that. And um, this will be back to you, Martika. Also, the geographic thing has always fascinated me. I've spoken to many guests who were either born and raised in different locations of the world. The United States, very large area, very large country. Filled with different types of environments and biomes and all of that. So the energy here is pretty diverse, and I understand a lot of the geographical energy because I've been around the country and I've seen the country, and I've connected to the people and the land in different areas of the country. So with Australia, there's a lot of diversity there from what I understand. From the East Coast versus the West, and the desertous regions versus the more plush regions. But I've never been there. Never really connected to the people. I've connected to a few people from Brisbane, and a few people from oh Lord, it's Perth, and a few people from Queensland area. So I've got to learn a little bit about that. Um, did you find that energy in that very specific area that you were there, being raised in? Was that the energy that was connected to you, or do you find that similar type of energy all across the Australian region?
It's probably hard to answer the question without bias, though the Sunshine Coast specifically is it's unique in what it is as well. There are so many other types of places that are equally divine and unique, but the unique thing that I can speak about by being so deeply connected with the place is there's this real intersection of like urban areas, beach areas. We have farming and agriculture. We have rainforest in the mountain. And I think it's the fact that those energies are intersecting in a relatively defined space that makes the difference. So we have, areas that are usually one or the other, or with not as many diversities. So that's this thing that I absolutely loved showing when we had international students visit in high school was come and see all of like the variety that's actually here. And so the energies of urban, the energies of the water, the energies of the rainforest. These are all offering their own soundscapes, their own ecosystems, their own fauna and flora that just contribute to it just being so, so rich. And the energy of it sort of wedged between the Great Dividing Range, where this mountain range is, where you can still see these obviously inactive volcanoes, and there is a lot of rock formation, coffee rock, things that make up where our feet are absorbing these ancient energies that are still there for us. And I think that it's uniquely different. I joke, often wherever you go in Australia, and I've been to a few places, you'll know someone from the Sunshine Coast. It's kind of that place that seems to reverberate. A lot of people know it. A lot of people have been there. So yeah, I think it's definitely special in its own right.
That's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that. And an interesting fact I heard a long time ago is that Australia, as far as the tectonic plate activity, is one of the oldest exposed lands that were left, and having some of the most ancient land that's there. So that makes sense. And then the diversity of biomes coming together too, that makes a lot of great sense. So I want to ask you too, Jasmine, where were you raised in the U.S.? I imagine that's where you lived at, or that's where you were born at. If not, let me know where that is, and just kind of give me an idea of what that experience was like for you energetically in the place where you were or spent most of your time as a child or young adult.
Well, I grew up in Southeast Texas, and though the land does have a lot of heaviness because of the oil refineries there, there is a lot of beauty and magic because of the trees and the jungle-like nature of this place. And so there was a lot of elemental energy there. And you could also really feel the ancient energies of when the dinosaurs once roamed as well. And so there was a lot of magic to the land that unfortunately had been distorted by the refineries and the oil companies, but it still was accessible. And so we did have a lot of woods that we could go out and play in, and just really be with the trees and just really deeply connect with the land and the areas that were still available to explore. And it was just I did really always love the trees. That was the one thing I really, truly loved about where we grew up, was the trees. It's like I could access the memories from them and understand that they were living beings, even from an early age. And because of the deep connection to that, as I began to get older, I began to see that even plants had the same consciousness, because it's a place with such diversity of plants, such a diverse habitat. And so each individual plant was very special and specific, Um, and I just really deeply connected with the consciousness of that as well. And it felt like that added to my ability to just really connect with the earth, and even with my own gift, having that knowledge available to me in the form of the trees and the plants and even the animal life that existed there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and the heaviness. When you said heaviness, oil refineries, that makes a lot of sense. But the first thing I reverted to in my own mind about the Texas area of our nation is the heavy history that's been there too. This was a place of multiple layers of genocide with the Mexican people who were descendants of Spaniards, and a lot of Native Americans were killed there. Even Americans fighting each other at a lot of times. And it was kind of the Wild West area. It was one of the furthest west areas when Texas was kind of founded and the wars were fought for that land. And that brought the worst of the worst out there. Hey, this is the farthest out we can go. This is pretty much wild land, and a lot of killings and things happen there too. Now, when you compare the energy of where you grew up and where you were raised, now you live in Sedona, if I'm correct. And how would you describe the difference between Sedona, Arizona, which is a well-known vortex of these spiritual mountains, versus the area of Texas? How do you feel that's different?
Oh, there's a massive difference in the land itself. Here, it seems that because there in Southeast Texas, it seems like it is a free for all. I guess that's that ancient energy reverberating through of everything and everyone that had unfortunately been killed off um, as this land was colonized. And so there in Southeast Texas, there is a lot of people, continually cutting down the trees and taking over the land, and it's really sad. It's something I can't even. Every time I've seen them take the trees out, it just makes me cry because I can feel the trees. But here in Sedona, it's like there's a caring for the land, and that is massively felt. There's a caring for nature. There's a more respect for it here, and that is massively different. Not to mention, you can really feel the energy here too. I know whenever I first came to Sedona, for the first month or two, I was just in a consistent channeling state. It was like I couldn't come down out of it in a sense. It took about a month or two to adjust to the energies because they were so profound, um, and really deeply connect you to your gifts. Because I know, from what I believe, here in Sedona, isn't there ley lines that's intersect through here,
Yeah.
creating like creating a sort of like a magnetic field, which creates those vortexes. And yeah, just even coming into it, you just feel it immediately. And so there's a difference in that. And in Southeast Texas, it's a bit more subdued, I guess, because you can really feel just the heaviness there. It kind of keeps you in this state of, I don't know, just not a lot of people seem to be able to get out of there very often. And seem to kind of stay in the same kind of life for a long time, for a very long time. And here it's a bit more progressive. There's more energetic movement. You're able to, when you set an intention here, it really can populate and expand and grow in very beautiful, expensive ways.
Yeah, it's Sedona was magic. I've only been there twice, but each time I've went, and I came home, I would transmute a lot, and then magic happened afterwards. Like I just got back from there a couple weeks ago, and then all these things in my own channeling and getting the invites out was something I've always wanted to do. Get out of the U.S. and start channeling elsewhere. So I agree with you totally, and that makes total sense. And thank you for sharing that. And Martika, I wanted to ask you, from the place where you were a child and your relationships in this beautiful land that you're on and this magical energy with that ancient energy of the land itself, can you take us from there kind of into uh, more, not necessarily now in your journey, but take us up through how you developed some more in-depth spiritual understandings and kind of the route and path you took from childhood to develop more beliefs that are similar to the ones you have now?
Yeah, that's a really good question, that kind of middle part in between. So obviously as a teenager it starts to become more about relationships, and I did mention before the impact of meeting so many folks from overseas through the exchange programs at high school. um, just blew my mind. Language was a massive gateway for me into the human thought process. And so I started to do linguistics at uni, because I was just so obsessed with language and the spoken word. Um, Obviously, sound as contributing to like the origins of our existence in the way we have um evolved here. Um, Sound and language is something that's sort of carried me through. Um, so it was relationships really, really getting curious about people's stories and understanding their perspectives, and asking questions like you're asking now, but to everyday people. That was how I conducted myself. It was probably pretty weird, but I I just had a curiosity, wanting to know more about like the lands that someone's come from, what their experiences were growing up, because it kind of put together this tapestry of this energy that you can just see. Like, why is this the way that it is? Well, this could be why. And when I had my first child, I had an out of body experience, or a bit of an astral travel. That was the first time it had happened to me. And
During the birthing process? Sorry to
no,
interrupt you.
sorry, I clarified. It was probably about 5 months later,
Okay.
and it was phenomenal. I'd never experienced anything like that. It was not induced. It was just so unexpected in bed one night. And when I came out of that, um, I started to have this kind of transcribing effect. Like my art was changing, and this is where it sort of segued into what I do now. But at the time, it was just sitting in circle with people and drawing their energies and their stories, through line and pattern work, and it was helping me kind of conceptualize things like in the way that language should. But now language, of course, is pretty um, broken and distorted. But it was all about the spoken word stories. I used to watch an aunt of mine, and Aboriginal artist, drawing and painting, and obviously they're so heavy in stories, the artwork. Um, it became absurd to me that anybody would produce a piece of art that didn't have a story with it. But it, yeah, the relationships and the artwork and the storytelling became a focus without the conscious spiritual aspect of it. if that makes sense. So this is still like a prelude to a spiritual path. It was just I wanted to understand and interconnect with people, and had this capacity to sort of bounce their story back to them in this different way through the art, and it allowed them to witness their story in a different way. And it was just sort of where it went from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And for me, I find something I'm kind of overlapping with you. There's always been a fascination with the spoken word, but not necessarily from a sound vibrational effect as much as the different way that people from around the world speak. And it's interesting that it didn't really start. I mean, I always had an interest in it, but when I started my channeling, I developed an ear. Like, I've never been to England. I had a distant relative from Brixton, which is, in London, but I could hear someone speak from England and know exactly what part of the country they were from. So I just automatically received this ear for different types of language quality and different accents and different uses of words. So that was something that came into my own experience. So take us to that part, where and also, yeah, the second thing that you shared about knowing people, although the story aspect wasn't as much of a focus, even though I always love hearing stories of people. That's why I do the show, to talk to people and get to know their story. But the other thing about human interaction with me that's always been effective, and that really helps, it's like been one of my major focuses over my whole life, is understanding how people tick, and wondering why they think the way they do, why they see the world the way that they do, why do they have beliefs that they do. And a story is part of filling those gaps. Hey, I don't like other people because this is my life as a kid and I just didn't trust people, or whatever the story leads to. There's always something there that kind of tells us about people through the stories, and getting to understand that has always been fascinating for me too. So can you take us to that part, Martika, where you're going through this connection and sound, and you're finding an affinity and connection for that, and then take us to that place where you have maybe what you might consider like the breakthrough for your spiritual journey?
Yeah, that's a good lead into the breakthrough, because so with the story aspect, the relational aspect, it was there was a lot of, quote unquote left brain thinking there. One of, talking about dialects and things like that, feeling natural for yourself, through ancestry potentially. Um, Something that just always stood out to me in a linguistics class was birds having dialect. The same breed of crow that lives here on the east coast compared to the west coast, their calls are dialect, like region specific, or have accents, for lack of a better word.
That's
That
insane.
like
I never knew
really
that. That's
blew my
insane.
mind. Yeah, is that not the coolest thing? Like, and that makes me like question, okay, so what's like the relationship to the land that causes it, like without the scientific side and the vibrations, but that makes me want to unpack that and dive into, like why I have such an inquiring mind. And my mother and I would have really quite deep conversations from a really young age, that would be about human nature. Why do people behave the way that they behave? And I grew up, I said I had a privileged geography, but I didn't have privileges in many other sense of the word. So there was quite a lot of density. And as I got into my adult years, that density continued and it compacted. And it wasn't until um, maybe breaking through the other side of that density, and sort of finding a sense of freedom, that the spiritual stuff started. It was always there. It was always lingering in the background and in the ethers and in the dreams and in my mindset. But it wasn't until one of the biggest densities that I experienced as a human kind of happened, which I won't go into too much. But it was related to parenting. So that is where it now becomes a spiritual story, and wanting to ask a little bit more, like wanting to find strength and wanting to find answers in a different way. That we can ask questions all day long and we can find answers all day long, but when we're finding ones that actually resonate and land for us, that's generally where we start to follow that path, and that's what spirituality did for me. And even that's such a broad term. I studied in rigid religions and tried to understand their thinking from a neutral perspective, and it was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses and studying with Christians and trying to unpack their thought processes. How do you get to where you're at in your beliefs? What is the information you're using, and what is the information that I have at hand? Well, for the most part, it's my experience, and each of our individual experiences doesn't necessarily fit in with these rigid structures. And I think we're just at a place now where it's a little bit safer to kind of be crazy. It's a little bit safer to rely on your experience than what it might have been previously. So, it was timing, timing and tragedy, right?
Well, I love that. I love the fact that you said now's the time to be okay, to be a little crazier. I totally agree with that, and that's a beautiful share. Thank you for sharing that. And Jasmine, I would ask you to get us from that place in your childhood or teenage years, where you kind of have the ability and have this connection to astral states, and take us up to the place where you start developing some of your first true understandings of spirituality, and some of the things that you might now look and say, hey, this was the turning point into my journey that I'm on now.
Well, I guess I would say it was, of course, when I did start meditating. Um, I, of course, began having a pretty vivid experiences and noticing that not only was I finding myself in a calmer state after a few years of practice, but I was able to like hear people's thoughts more easily, understand, really notice that when I was feeling empathy and feeling people's emotions, and even feeling empathy from those that you couldn't see on the other side. Like when a spirit would come in, I would feel its emotions and become overwhelmed. And I'd be like, that's not my emotions. And I began to really notice that I could just really feel these energies coming from the fields around me. And it just it just fascinated me. It absolutely fascinated me and made me want to explore this more. Where did it come from? Why was I feeling this? How come I could feel differences in energies that others couldn't? Even down to hearing sounds that others couldn't. I would always be able to hear higher pitch frequencies, like a TV turning on in another room. Um, and I would be able to smell smells that other people couldn't. It was as if all of my senses were incredibly heightened, and it just made me want to understand it more, not only from a spiritual aspect, but even from a scientific aspect. Because even from a very early age, I had an interest in science and quantum physics and wanting to know the very nature of reality. It just seemed like it was a very natural space for me to explore, and it came to me very naturally. Even in school, was science and math were like my top subjects. I easily aced those, um, without having to study too hard. I wouldn't even have to study. It was just something that was very natural for me, and so I don't know. It just really piqued my curiosity to see how we could have these experiences, and why some people could experience it more than others. And that just really set my path forward. And also the astral projection, because I had them often. I would often astral project, and a lot of times it would be spontaneous. And I just wanted to know more about why this happened and what was I exploring, and and all the different places I would get to go and experience. Who is the man at the Golden Gate that I was always meeting with the white beard and the white robe, who I now think might be the keeper of the Akashic records? I'm still the jury's still out on that one, but I just wanted to know more about what existed in these other realms that we weren't able to physically see with our eyes. Um, Another thing I noticed too that really set me further to all this exploration and trying to understand this realm was the ability to see colors and energy around people, which I later discovered was their auras. And I just thought that was really fascinating that I could see this. That and how when you look to the sky, another form of energy I would see. When you look at a really clear blue sky, how you see those white lights that seem to like move and sparkle and come together. I've later come to understand that I was witnessing the literal light particles, that I was seeing the light particles coming together and separating and moving around. And I'd always thought I just maybe had something wrong with my vision, but later, as I became started really coming into this field, especially with channeling and meeting more people who were having the same experiences I was having, I was understanding that this was actually quite common for those of us who are more sensitive to witness these light particles. And that was something I had been able to see ever since I can remember. Um, it was like I don't know, I just wanted to really explore more of what I was witnessing and understand it because it seemed like it wasn't, something that was widely talked about, widely understood in society. It's like everybody was more concerned about what he said or she said or politics or, things that seemed like they didn't fully matter, that didn't seem to come from the heart. Um, and I always was a person who just felt from the heart and really just loved and just wanted everybody to be kind to one another. And it just seemed like the most natural way of being.
Yeah, so that makes sense, and it also makes sense too that you had a high level of empathic ability and a high level of natural psychic ability, and that both of you guys actually kind of started with that and had this just deeper level of understanding than most people did, even if not necessarily about the universe, about yourselves and about the people around you, relationships and all of that. So can you take us then, Jasmine, from this part of your life where you're kind of really getting into that curiosity and really expanding that, into the point where you meet Martika and how that happened from your perspective?
Well, first, I actually, after a series of really rough life events, I had come across quantum healing hypnosis, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, the QHHT. And so I actively sought out a practitioner thinking it was going to be way out of my range, but ended up finding somebody just in the town over in Houston who was actually very affordable. And I knew that this was meant. And so I went to her and had a session, and it completely just blasted me wide open to the fact that I could channel, that these experiences I was having was real, because a lot of times when we're having these experiences, we're taught to doubt them. And seeing that our intuition is just right there at all times. We're often taught, that, to doubt it. We really are. It's like, oh, that's just in your head, or, you know, why are you making these things up? And it's like it's been there this whole time. And you're like, oh, I already know all these things. I've been doing all these things. And so it just really brought me into this space of understanding why all these experiences have always happened to me. It also brought me other many profound things, such as really seeing myself as a star seed face to face. That was really interesting, and feeling myself being that star seed. And so we fast forward a bit, and I began making connections, like with Ruben, and more of the community. He helped me get into channeling in front of people, and on his portal, his community portal. And just I began really making these connections and having these wonderful experiences. And I was sharing this with my practitioner, my QHHT practitioner, Irina. And then, like a few months later, as I was sharing, more of my experiences and how exciting all of this was, she was like, "Well, why don't we do a session for the collective and get questions from people from that community, and then ask these questions to your higher self while you're in that state, while you're connected to this universal knowledge." And I was like, "That's a wonderful idea." And so of course, we, put it out there, gathered questions from my family, my friends, and from Ruben's community. And we proceeded to do the QHHT for the collective. And it was a really beautiful and profound experience. And it ended up being like a 4-hour session. And it was something that I ended up posting on my YouTube, and also shared it in a Telegram chat that I had become a part of, Ascension Diaries, and where we were learning more about, space weather and how connected we really are to the sun. And it was just a really beautiful space to explore that. And so I shared this at the Telegram chat, and then as I shared that, Martika had found it and had listened to it, and immediately she messaged me, and when she was like, "I know we know each other," and at first I was like, "Well, yeah, I felt that too," but it wasn't. I guess I just was still new to this whole experience of just connecting with people online in this way. And so at first I was like, "Well," I was like, "That's nice," And I was like, "That's really awesome," "I'm glad you had that experience." And but she kept like persisting and persisting, because I had a lot going on in my home life, and so I didn't really keep up with a lot of people outside of my home life too often, other than when I was in those spaces. And so finally, my curiosity started being piqued, and I was like, "I really feel like there is something, and that maybe there might be something here." And so we ended up connecting, and lo and behold, it was like it's been the most amazing experience ever. She is definitely somebody that I know for a fact that we know each other. We've known each other for many lifetimes. And as I connected to the Akashic records, I saw that we had been coming back. She was one of the main people that I'd been coming back with to create these points of light in Earth's history, so that leading up to this space and time where we're here bringing in the age of light. And we specifically were coming back and creating it through these different points of time, and only for us to meet again, but this time being on opposite sides of the earth, and being able to harness that energy between us through the center of the earth and connecting the hemispheres. And it's just been a really profound and wonderful experience. And she quickly has become my absolute best friend.
Quantum
She's
entangled partner.
Yes, yes, and oh yes, thank you. That also too, we also were witnessing as we were connecting and beginning to understand how we knew each other. We began having echoes of each other's experiences on opposite sides of the world, even through the elements. We would often have, the same kind of weather, or recently we both had halos on opposite sides of the earth on the same day, after we had the 3x flares in a row, and we had connected through that. And the next morning I'd woke up to having a halo around the sun, and there was a halo in Australia as well, where her mother was. And so it was just really interesting to see that we had that portal, that gateway had been open. And oftentimes even our own lives will mimic each other, where we both get sick at the same time, and many other things, even with our children. And so it's just been really interesting to experience that. And so we've been really experimenting more and more with this energy between us through the hemispheric gateway, and also through connecting the sun and the moon at the same time. When there's a full moon, one of us will have the sun in the and we'll have the sun in the picture, and one of us will have the moon in our call, because we'll have a Zoom call, and we'll put both the sun and the moon in the call at the same time, and then just create a sort of ritual space and connect through our hearts, and do visualization together, and do use these different methods to connect the energies. And we often, like almost immediately, will get feedback in a way through the elements, or even through our own physical vessels. And it's just really, really interesting. And so that's how we've come to know that we are entangled partners, are entangled particles of one another.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Martika. I want to hear your side of how you met, kind of in leading up to that, and then the experience itself from your perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Yeah, absolutely. The way Jasmine described it. We were in Alexis's chat, and Jazz had posted the QHHT session. I'd never really, I'm not sure what actually prompted me to listen to it. You know, there's a lot of things that get posted, but I did, and honestly, I think I had not even hit the 5 minute mark in listening to the session, and my mind was blown. And Jasmine alludes to this, like with the synchronicities and things that we experience when we're together. But the interesting thing is, it's this ripple where we're in the now in any given moment, but moments leading up to that, or as you'd put it, moments in the past, um, are echoed in the future beyond that 0 point. So I'd listen to 5 minutes of the QHHT channeling, and a series of like just this array of synchronicities that had been in probably the 3 days leading up to listening to the session. Imagery, just the way that she was describing different things, the picture that looks like it was a castle, I think, that she'd been walking up to. It was just everything. I was like, how is this happening? It was one of those moments where, there's just such an onslaught of synchronicities. You start to wobble a little bit. And I was like, what the hell just happened? So I sent her a message, like a voice note straight away. I was like, I'm not even 5 minutes into this, but I know that we need to connect. There was a familiarity in her voice as well. And I noticed when I look at someone, or when I speak to someone, and either they have a voice that's similar to another person, or if I see a physical similarity, it's often one that other people don't recognize. And like someone would say, they don't look like that person. And I'm like, they do. And so I'm assuming that I'm seeing like the energetic similarities in people. And what that leads to is there's an echo in the story. So the experience that I might have had with person A, who I think looks a lot like person B, there's this echo in the relationship that causes me to pay attention. So that's what it was. In the case of Jasmine, it was her voice. And the person who she reminded me of happened to be, I don't know if you know her, it was Golden V. She's a psychic medium. Um, and I was just blown away, and I just felt immediately that there was such a strong connection. And the rest, like, it's only been probably a little bit longer than 12 months that we've been connecting, but every time that we do, and especially when we do with intention, like, because we have just general calls as well with one another, but if we're there in a space, in intentional space, the feedback that we get, like the breeze, the wind, the rain, the clouds, the light refractions, all of these things are just echoed. And it's pretty, like, it, unless you're experiencing it, you might just brush it off, but like how profound it is to have these elemental feedbacks. One of the very first things that we did, we actually connected with the third person as well in one of the first intentional sessions we were in. And Jasmine was talking about being in Texas, And immediately when we were setting an intention to infuse Gaia with our intention and love and create a pathway, we all started smelling gas, and that just felt like a feedback. I'm in Australia. There's no good reason that I'm smelling gas. It's not really something that's used as common, in households, particularly where I am. There was no reason for it to logically to be experienced, but it was. But the senses are something that I have noticed as well, particularly my sense of smell. And it was through the Akashic records that I understood what that was about. But yeah, the relationship that we had was just seeing these insane echoes, and what we're looking at through like storytelling and myth and relationships, we see that as well. So it'll be something as simple as a name that we hear, that kind of echoes an old, ancient, known story that we're seeing.
Oh no, we lost Martika for a second. Hopefully she'll be back. I know she's got to actually head out, everyone, in just a few minutes. So hopefully she'll be back here real quick. Yeah, so we'll wait for her for just a second because we want to let her finish that thought up too before she has to go. And all right, Jasmine, why don't you jump in here? Oh, there she is. There you go. Sorry about that. You jumped out. So go ahead and continue. You were at pretty much you were talking about how those reflections through symbols occur and how you had taken that to the next level through your communications, and you had a third person that would jump in one of the meetings, and you can go from there. I know you got to jump out in a few minutes too.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I have no idea what's happened with that, but that's tech. That's fun. So yeah, the third person that we had while we were having our very first connection together, we all started smelling gas, and there was, no logical reason for it. But we just, presumed that those guys being in Texas, we were lightening Gaia. Like the intention was to reach each other through Gaia herself, and it felt like a little bit of a softening on her part, a bit of seam gas maybe rising, and experiencing that here too in Australia, which we don't have gas around. Certainly no big fields where I live, but yeah, so we kept seeing it, we kept getting the feedback, and we started to see the past lives as well, quote unquote past lives, these other forms that our energy has taken, and experiences that they've had. And it's really intense. It can be very, very intense and get quite wobbly, but it's really beautiful as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I know you got to jump out in a minute, so I'll just direct this question to you, and you can answer as quickly as you need. What brought you to that next area, the School of Photonic Light, or even better yet, just kind of explain what the idea of the School of Photonic Light is.
So we, as Jasmine mentioned earlier, and just, I mean, anybody will look around and see, we're moving into a space where people are in their own power, and we all have our own right to express our experience. And the idea behind the school is to bring people into feeling okay with that experience by witnessing each other, sharing your experiences that you're having. How do you want to interact with the field? And can we do it outside of these indoctrinations? So there's conversations being had about topics like accreditation, Rob. Like a lot of people getting these online accreditations, doing a lot of very prescriptive, systematic approaches. And as someone with an analytical mind, I can absolutely appreciate um, why that's appropriate. But I also want to, with Jasmine, what we want to do is, how much do we need to rely on these prescriptive ways of doing things? Obviously, there's a place when it's to do with like Indigenous cultures and deep shamanic work that takes a lifetime of initiation. That's not the same thing as what I'm talking about. Like, we want to call it a school because we're learning together. We're all peers. We're all on the same, we're on a even keel. We're coming into this new age where we're already sharing synchronicities, we're already sharing experiences, and having a space to do that without having to learn in a way that is so dogmatic is what we're really, really wanting to come away from. And seeing how accessible what we're doing is probably the key part. So thank you so much for the questions and having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming, Martika. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. I know you got to jump off for your work because you're on the other side of the world and it's work time there. But thank you so much for being here with us. And we'll definitely have you come back on with Jasmine at a later time too and finish up our chat properly. Thank you.
I'm so grateful. Thank you, everybody. I wasn't able to see the chat, but I will be able to watch the replay. I'm so grateful. Thank you, guys.
And thank you so much. So, Jasmine, take us from there. Take us from that area of the school. How do people get involved with this school? How do people join this test, this practice, this energetic field connection? How do they join that? How do they become a part of that? And what kind of things are you planning to do through that?
Well, we have a site set up on her 12th. It's 12thhouseart.com, and from there, there should be a menu that shows the School of Photonic Light. It should be the first option. And from there, you can go in, you can look around, you can see what we offer. And from there, you can sign up to register. We will also be in a week from now, we will also be hosting a free Q&A, so that you can join and see if this is something that you would be interested in, if it's something you resonate with, and to just ask us any questions that you like, to see kind of like where you fit in all of this. And we also do have our Instagram as well, the School of Photonic Light. You can follow us on there as well, where we'll be updating it pretty often with new things talking about, because in this space we really want to combine and bridge science and spirituality, because it's the missing aspect to fully understanding our reality is the spiritual aspect, because we ourselves are biological technology, and through accessing this technology, through these spiritual practices, through opening our heart, through sound, through intention, through emotion, we are able to really have an effect on the quantum field. And that's what me and Martika have witnessed, in our connection through all of this, when we realized that we were entangled particles. Um, and we want to further explore that with others, because as we have expressed this with other people, they have also spoken of experiences they've had, or we've helped them realize that some of the experiences they're having are also feedback, in a sense, from the quantum field, or synchronicities, or manifestation. And um, and so in this space we want to create a community effort where we can all kind of like experiment together, and try to understand this bridge, and kind of see where it takes us, and how we can bridge science and spirituality together through our personal experiences and our shared experiences. And so that's why we've created this platform, which you can go in and check out at 12thhouseart.com. Oh, it's slash School of Photonic Light.
All right, thank you for that. And then when people go to the Q&A, can you tell us where that is, when that is, and how to register for that too, for people who are interested in being a part of that? You said it's a free Q&A, right?
Yes, yes, it'll be a week from now, and we're going to share the link on our Instagram, and also you can find it on the 12thhouseart.com as well. It should be on that first page. And we also do have a link tree, um, which is just the School of Photonic Light, and the link tree will have all of our links that will take you directly to these platforms.
All right, and I did put the registration page up on the 12th house website, and I'm going to put up the link tree link, and all of these will be found, guys, in the description, whether you're watching this live right now or whether you're watching it back through the various networks that redistribute this show, such as Forbidden Knowledge News Network or Conscious Awakening Network. You'll be able to find it in the description underneath whichever platform, audio or video, that you're listening to. So what's kind of the plan for that Q&A? You just want people to show up and join and share their ideas and questions with you guys, and kind of get that perspective of the plan for this school, the whole ideology behind the school. I imagine just by hearing you guys talk about it, it gives everybody a good idea. But for people who might not have ever done these types of Q&As before, and never joined any types of these events, are there any specific themes that you're going to focus on, or are you just going to kind of jump around to any question that comes around and kind of focus on those as you go?
Well, I think we're just going to talk about the scientific and the spiritual aspects, and then yeah, just really kind of open the floor for any questions that people may have to see if this is a fit for them. But we will um, be describing it, talking about the whole basis of this in the beginning, and then open the floor for questions, just so everybody could just get a feel for, is this for me? Is this something I want to participate in? What can I learn from this? How can this maybe add value to my life? Things of that nature.
Well, I know that you've got to kind of jump off too. You've got some responsibilities around you that you've got to take care of. Um, Before you go, I just wanted to let you know, I know we've only got to meet a few times, but I felt very deeply in my heart the connection, and I appreciate you as a person. I know you're excited to share what you have inside of your heart, but also something that's not as common in our spiritual community, even though I always think it should be, is receiving the love of other people's hearts. You know, a lot of people want to share what they have, but they don't want to receive from others, or people just want to receive and not share. And you're finding that beautiful balance between the two. And I really appreciate that about you and your excitement for the work that you're doing. So thank you for coming on tonight. We really appreciate having you.
Thank you so much, Rob. That means so much. And yes, I felt it from you too. You have such a beautiful heart and a beautiful energy. And I am so, so grateful for having met you and got getting to have spent time with you as well. So thank you.
Oh, it was amazing. And you were the only person in the world that got to watch the situation with my channeling with Wendy Kennedy and myself. You were the person who got to see me bring Treb in for the very first time that way. Only you
Yes.
and Wendy had the eyeballs on that one. So that was a really amazing moment I got to share with you too, which I really appreciated.
Yes, it was profound. And also in that experience, seeing how you guys are, it just really helped me be able to soften in what I do, because so often, going forward, you sometimes get worried about what others will think, and seeing that you guys just so fully embrace your gift and was just fully authentic in who you are and spoke on the things that you received was just beautiful and very profound for me and very inspirational. And I thank you. And I thank you so much for that.
Oh, I'm so happy I got to be a part of your journey too, because that's always the excitement for me to do my work. As much as I love to hear about things that happen with people and taking their stories, I don't have as much time for that as I wished I did. And to be able to have that intimate space with just the channelers and the people who that they were connected with in that time gave me an opportunity to connect with you and Luca and Yana and all the other people that were there that were really amazing. And I just wish I get to do that more. But being able to know that my sharing of what I do, my channeling, and just the way I am in general is helpful to you, that makes me happy, because it means I'm doing something good and something helpful, and I didn't have to do much work to do that. I just got to be able to do that with you. So that was amazing. I really appreciate you too. So thank you for being here tonight. If you guys are interested in signing up for that class. Let me go back to the link. Right there, you go and you go to, oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the Instagram. Go here and then click on the School of Photonic Light tab and then go register for the event. You guys can be a part of that Q&A. And when was that again, the day and time?
The Q&A is a week from now. I have to look at the time because Martika was the one who had written it down, but I know it's exactly a week from now. And it will be, I believe, 7 p.m. my time.
So it'll be
Which,
the time the show starts next week,
yes,
guys. Yeah.
yes.
So be there for that. I won't care if you guys skip out on me for a week. If you want to be a part of this, please do, because I think it will give you an experience, and you can always listen to this show on playback. So go join them if you're interested, guys. Well, I'm grateful for you being here too. I send you all my love, and like I said, you and Martika should come back. Usually, I don't do double ups on the guest for at least 6 to 8 months to kind of give room for new experiences to happen. And by then, God knows what both of us will be up to. So it'll be nice to touch bases back. But thank you for being here again tonight. I really appreciate it.
Of course, and I'm really excited to share our experiences with you in the future too. And I look forward to speaking with you again, Rob. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you guys all for being here. The chat was amazing. You guys are always great. You're always supportive. You're always interacting and sharing and being awesome. So thank you guys for being here. And anyone listening back, thank you guys for checking out. I will be here next week. The guest is unknown at this point, but I've got 5 or 6 people right off the bat that I'm going to be having on the show. Some of them will be from the Mount Shasta event that we're doing in June. Others will be from the star, or no, not from the human colony. Sorry about that. It's actually from the Stargate Crusader retreat in Connecticut in July, and we might try to get Jim Charles back from Human Colonies, because he's a dear friend of mine and because we always love him. It'll be nice just to have him back on. It's been a while. So we'll be having guests, but it won't be announced until later. Family life is a little crazy at this time too. Lily's going through some big shifts and changes in herself. Jeremy's going through a lot of medical things. He's got a procedure Friday. So if you guys think about us, Friday about 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and you just happen to remember, you guys send Jeremy some love for his procedure. He's got to get his kidney stones worked on and removed. So it's a big thing for him. Just send some love out. It'd be great. We appreciate all of you guys being here. We'll see you guys next week at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern at 7 Pacific. And if you're not going to be here because you're going to be with Jasmine and Martika, please send them my love. I wish I could be there, but I got to be here. And also let us know how it goes the week after when you come back. I love you guys. We'll see you next week, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks so much all for being here, and thank you again, Jasmine. All right, guys, have a good one. Love you guys. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye, guys.